you're not a coffee drinker.
I'm not. Yeah.
You're not really a coffee drinker.
No.
This doesn't relate. You guys can tell me to change my life if I need to. I don't think coffee cups get dirty. Never wash them.
Okay.
Thought?
Like,
if I drink a cup of coffee every day, there's no need to wash that cup.
I guess if you're drinking your own
You can
germs,
push back on this a little bit.
well, no, I mean, you're
Am I
weird.
gross? Should I wash it?
You're
I
weird.
feel like you're.
I'm weird.
I feel like
Okay.
you're exposing, like, just a common thing. Like
Do people like
I feel like people
just
do that.
no one washes their coffee
I
cups?
definitely like. I have a cup that I put like I have like supplements that I take in
Yeah.
the morning, and I wash that cup once a week.
See,
Because I'm like,
okay.
I use it every morning, so why would
Why would
I
I wash
wash
it?
it?
Well, it's the same. I mean, I never make
Now
my
I
bed
feel-
because I'm
Let's
going
go.
to get into
Okay.
it.
I was waiting for that to
no,
go
have you
somewhere.
never heard the speech about how you have to make your bed every morning?
I know I've heard it, but I just don't buy
apply
into it. I'd rather be lazy and not accomplish anything. Just move on.
Feel unsuccessful
back.
all day.
Unsuccessful. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I don't know.
My mom used to get on to me
I
because
feel kind of exposed now because
No, that's okay.
I do that, but I don't drink coffee. But
I'm glad we're on the same page
I do it
about
with
it,
a
though.
different drink.
Yeah. My mom used to tell me, if you make your bed, you've cleaned 75% of your room, and that would make me clean it.
Oh.
That's how she got me to
You
make
must
my
have
bed.
a small room or a big
Well,
bed.
I was under the stairs like Harry.
You were under the stairs.
Welcome to No Dumb Questions. This is our special guest today, John Martfeld. He works at the firm, and he's also a recurring guest on the Market Moment podcast. So if you can see him there, I'm sure there'll be something to click on. But I'm Isaac. This is Reagan.
Hey, guys.
Ashton's not with us today, but we're still going to dive into some questions.
Yeah.
So, wait, I forgot your spiel. We scoured the internet to find
Oh,
questions.
you forgot. You're
I
being
forgot.
really
I'm
bad.
bad.
What is this called?
There are
What is this?
high standards in this chair.
Yeah.
And I just don't meet them.
Everyone take note.
But we scoured the internet for questions we don't think get answered enough. And we found a couple on Reddit today, and John's going to help us out.
Oh, can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I'll kick us off.
Sweet.
Our producer actually found this question. Got my hair in the
Shout
microphone.
out, producer.
What's up? So one question, we're kind of going to talk credit scores, maybe some debt stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
So somebody asked if they're better off focusing on their credit score, like building their credit score, or paying off their student loans. The little description is, I'm currently struggling to raise my credit score. I pay off all my bills on time, but my score is kind of hovering around the same number. I've got money saved up, and if I want to, I could pay off my debt. But if not, it's going to take me several more years with interest rates. So just kind of, they're looking for some guidance on that. And I thought we could just have a general discussion about credit scores and debt and all that kind of stuff. So
No, I think
jump
that's
on
great.
in.
All right. I'll give you
roll?
my 2 cents. You guys ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right. So as you can tell, I'm the old person by a long shot.
You're
in here.
seasoned.
Right. I'm seasoned.
Yeah.
You guys add your age together plus our producer, and I'm still older than the three of them together. So I have a little experience in
we're
this
good.
stuff.
That's not right.
Yeah, probably.
That's not right.
Math is not my
I was,
strong
but
suit.
the fact that I had to think about it, I was like, hang
You're
on,
not-
wait a second.
Anyway, I've got some experience in this, the field of doing this, but there's a couple things that come to my mind when I hear this question.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty great question, actually, because that is the kind of the never ending, like the dog chasing the tail story. Because I have clients that have paid off all of their debt and they have no debt, and they've had no debt for years. And these are people in their older ages, right? Then they go and they try to get credit for something that's a deal at a store or something, 0% credit for 12 months. They want to take advantage of it, and they can't get anything because they have no credit score, right? So it kind of hurts them in the sense that they've paid everything off, which is what you should hope that everybody does.
Right.
But then they have no credit score, so then they can't take advantage of a credit. So it's kind of strange that way. So I always kind of think of it, there's a balance of what you should pay off, how fast you should pay it off. But I look at it kind of this way. If you have the ability to pay off the student loans and your interest rate is fairly high, meaning if it's more than 5%, I would say, I would attack that aggressively.
Yeah.
Like I might pay it off immediately and then take the money that you've been paying to that and put it towards yourself. But here's another little trick to build your credit score. Have a credit card and use it for your things that you are going to have every month. Fill up your gas tank with it, buy your groceries with it.
Yep.
If you go out to dinner, use it for dinner, and then pay it off every single month. The best way to build your credit is to always have credit that you're paying off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Don't build a massive debt. That is not the way to do it. So getting rid of those student loans would probably be a smart idea. And then have a card that you use for all your incidentals and just build credit that way. You will see your credit score go through the moon if you do that. And that's to me the smartest way to do it. And you're continuously, you're keeping the credit score moving, and it's always moving in the positive direction.
It's a strange the formula of how a credit score comes to be is might as well be a magic 8-ball. It's insane because I've had times where I'll pay off a debt and my credit score goes down. I'll have times where I open up a new credit card and it'll go down for a little bit, and like next week it jumps up. It just doesn't make any sense. It's age of credit, amount of credit limit, if you're paying it off on time, things like that. It's very counterintuitive in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I'm also kind of, not to kind of push back on it, but I feel like it is given way too much of a pedestal.
Yeah.
Like a credit score.
Like in importance.
I feel like
yeah.
especially in our world today, and we have to rely on leverage in a lot of parts of life just with housing and things like that. But it's become this if you can get your credit score to 800, you're automatically a millionaire.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
and that is a total joke.
There's not true.
Do you know how many people, and it's usually young people because they believe they've been told to get their score to 800 plus.
Right.
And I've had so many people that get their score to 800 plus. I had a client years and years and years ago, and he was not the nicest of people, and I won't, obviously won't say his name. I can't even remember his name. He's not my client anymore. But he, we'll call him Isaac. No.
Yeah.
So
bad guys. Just real bad
Isaac's,
guys.
man, they're the worst.
But he got his score up, and he went to a lender, and he was so frustrated that he didn't get 2% less than the going rate on his mortgage that he was going to get because he had an 800 credit score, and how dare they not reward him for such hard work? But the reality is the bank is going to give you the score that they're going to give you. And the only thing the bank will do to you is if you have a poor score, your rate will be worse. Right. But the rate is the rate, right? It's not going to change just because you have an 800 versus a 750 or even a 725. I do think that to kind of get through life, if you want to, you need credit to get credit cards and get yourself into debt, which is just not good in general. But so I go back to it's smart to know you've got to have credit to get into a house and so on. You've got to have a score, but don't, you could be really smart about it and don't get fixated on having to get to 800.
Yeah. I don't want to get too Dave Ramsey. I know whenever debt comes up, he comes
Are we going to talk to him at this show at all?
Yeah, he's going to call in later.
Dave, we're giving you a call.
He has this quote, or not a quote, but the way I describe it, I'm kind of a nerd. In a past life, I was a big video game guy.
We thought you still were.
I have a child now, so I have no time.
No, but being a nerd. I'm talking about you still a nerd.
But whenever you play these games, it's like you have to get the right gear to beat a boss, and that boss gives you better gear so you can fight the next boss, and it just goes and you just get better gear to fight the next boss. So it's like you get a credit score. This is what Dave says. You get a credit score so you can get more debt, and you get more debt so your credit score goes up so you can get more debt, and it's just so this crazy game.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree with that.
And so that's my. I like to kind of put it in those
That's
terms.
a great,
If you put it like that, it
analogy.
really doesn't make sense. Sometimes I'll sit there now that I have responsibilities, and I'll be playing a game, and I'm like, why am I
Still
fighting
the game.
I'm fighting this boss to get better gear to fight the next boss, and I'm like, I should probably go read a book.
Hey,
you
but
definitely should.
Back to the really good question she had.
Yeah.
Just
pay the debt off.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think the credit score kind of comes next.
It comes next, but it's not
like
necessary.
It's not
Yeah,
dire
for
to.
And you will have it
we,
go up.
we don't know enough about the situation
No
to
doubt, no
say
doubt.
a
Of
guaranteed,
course,
but
of course.
if you are trying to buy a home or anything like that, maybe you need the money for a down payment. There's different options, but I consider student loans consumer debt. Like I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Sure.
not like a car or which is also kind of consumer debt, but a house, right? Like having an appreciating asset with
it's
debt
not
on
the
it.
same as
It's not the
a
same as
loan.
student loan debt where it's like
It's just
there's
a
really nothing
weight
backing
around
it.
your
No.
shoulder.
Yeah,
Right.
so just
right
just
in
pay
there.
it off as quick as you can, and
The best,
that's
like,
how you want to do.
My parents taught me, like, hey, we're gonna give you the credit card, or you're gonna get one,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're gonna spend it like you would a debit card, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're just gonna pay it off every
Yeah.
month. Like I don't even pay attention to
You just
my
pay it
score.
off.
I just pay it off, and I'm like, and I know I have a good credit score
Of
because
course.
there's
Yep.
no reason I wouldn't, just
Yep.
because I just simply do that, and I like didn't want to know the credit score formula. I didn't want to know how you get it
Right.
better, how you get it
Right.
worse. Like I didn't want to know any of that. I
No
just
doubt.
wanted to do a simple thing that was available, and
Yeah.
I think that
Now
eliminates
you can
a
get
lot
really smart with these credit cards too. You can
Yeah.
get some that have like airline mileage,
yeah,
Oh, the travel point
rewards.
guy.
Yeah,
rewards.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's what you
Yes.
like. If you really get into the game,
yeah.
you can actually take advantage of, and it's a good game.
Yeah.
You know, we're at all-time credit card highs, in the country right now.
Yeah.
Credit card companies are making so much money. I mean, it's crazy. The interest rates are crazy. Just don't be victim to that. Don't pay them.
Right.
Like take advantage of the things they offer you,
Right,
but
totally.
don't become their victim.
Totally.
And this is back to Dave Ramsey. Somebody framed it to me. He's Mr. No debt at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like buy a house for cash. Like
Right,
Dave Ramsey.
right.
Yeah.
And whenever you hear that, like I agree with a lot of that he says. That's crazy. Somebody says Dave Ramsey is to big spenders like AA is to alcoholics.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's
Yeah, just
great
like
for you if you
cold
cannot
turkey.
handle a credit card.
Yeah.
No
cold-
doubt, no
Right?
doubt.
Like if you just
Yeah.
physically cannot handle that
Yep.
responsibility, listen to Dave
No
Ramsey
doubt. No doubt.
on everything he says.
Yep.
Yes. Because
Yep.
they are dangerous.
Yeah.
Perfect. What
kind
else we
of
got?
like just to weave our
keep
way
weaving.
back in that.
Sure.
What, like, is it good to have any sort of debt at all? Like we've kind of talked about it, but is there an argument for, hey, Dave says no, but
Yeah.
do you guys have a counter argument for
I-
that?
I have a huge counter.
I disagree. Yeah.
I a huge disagree. Okay, so our clients come in and we do our retirement analysis. Well, can we even talk about that? Well, anyway, we just did. Sorry, but we do these things. We do financial plans all the time for clients, right? For people. And one of the things is that when you have house debt, and I always ask the client, okay, how much is your house worth? X amount. How much do you owe on it? And what is your interest rate? And I'm very curious of the interest rate because we've just had this recent 2-3 year period where we could get historically low interest rates. If you have an historically low interest rate on your house, that money, like paying, and you have a job and you have the ability to pay the payment, you don't need to pay that thing off. If it's a 3% interest,
It's an asset in itself.
it's an asset. It's growing more in some cases than the 3%. Your other assets that you can invest that money in are growing at greater than 3 if you have a good advisor. So it's not like that to me is dumb to pay that, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
That to me is good debt as an example of
Sure.
good debt. Now, if
Yeah.
the interest rate is 8%, then I would be attacking it fairly fast.
just
like
being
Dave Ramsey.
smart with your dollars, right?
The-
Yeah. Every dollar needs a job. We talk about that all the time. And if this dollar right here can go make 6 and this is 3, then
Exactly.
on napkin math that makes sense.
Yeah, net-
But if this is 8,
Yeah.
might be better just to put it over there.
No doubt. The best lesson I ever learned from Dave Ramsey, which I think he's great and I think he's fantastic, but the best lesson I ever learned from him was write a bunch of books and become a millionaire of telling people how to, to do things with your
And
finances.
have you taken the advice?
And then you don't have to worry
no.
about debt and
I'm
you don't have to
working
worry
on
about
it, yeah.
anything, right? I mean, if you got,
Yeah.
but
He
somebody
probably
had to
buys a
do
lot
it
of
and he
houses for
took it and he did it.
Yeah.
And he's awesome. But a lot of his stuff is so kind of funny to me. A lot of it's elementary that we should know in it, but a lot of people don't
But
know
we
it.
don't.
We don't have
There's
high school classes.
No,
we don't have college
we don't
classes.
know it. I mean, he's
No.
super valuable
No, he's
because
super
we
valuable.
don't know.
He should talk to every new NFL player and Major League Baseball player, like these young people, WNBA players, where
Sure,
they have
yeah.
no idea how to handle money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
He would be and he's great for all of us.
Yeah.
But that particular house debt is fine if the interest rate matches.
What
if you can
other-
beat it
Yeah.
in other things.
Are there other good debts?
I mean,
or
I
what else?
always think of real estate like me and my wife. A good chunk of our portfolio is real estate debt. We have rental properties, and they generate income that pays the mortgage and some. I would consider those good debt, just because it's able to kind of fund our
Fund
lifestyle
itself,
a little
and
bit
eventually
more.
you'll
Yeah.
have that going. Yeah.
And eventually it'll pay itself off. And I'm not a big fan of, and I used to be in the real estate world before I came here, and there's a big push to like cash out refinance, like pay it off, loans are free money, things like that. I'm definitely not in that train. Like once I pay it off, I'm good. Like I'm happy with
You're
that.
not gonna jump back
Yeah,
in.
right, but I'm definitely not in a hurry to pay. I have a property with a 3.25 interest rate.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not ever gonna pay extra
Free-
towards that
it's
principal.
free
Sure,
money.
Yeah.
Because it's making you money
Yeah.
and it's growing in value.
Maybe when I retire, just for like peace of mind, but no, I'm never gonna touch that. Not extra for sure.
And there is a math equation, though, you can do on any of these
Sure,
things to
sure.
see if it's worth it or not.
There's a really good one. Eli might have done a data brief on paying off your house, or he's working on a script for it. He's done it. There's a website called Honest Math, which is like a really cool calculator, similar to Retirement Analyzer,
Yeah.
but like it has a ton of more inputs. It's a lot nerdier.
Yeah.
And they ran a scenario on if it's better to finance your house for 30 years, pay the minimum the whole time, and then pay it off in 30 years, or pay it off in 15 and then invest what you were for the next 15 years. And at what point you have what that looks like 30 years down the line, investment wise. And it was like the same. On in their scenario, and obviously there's different
there's
data
variables
points.
that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't
of course, that you
yeah.
can't
possibly
account
know, but
for,
it's
yeah.
kind of cool to
But
do
it
the
was
math
interesting
like
to
that.
know
Yeah.
like there's a certain return on your money where it makes sense to pay it off.
And-
There's
Yeah.
but also it doesn't really matter. Like sometimes it's just what helps you sleep at night, which is a lot of what this job is. Like John meets with clients every day is, well, if you're not comfortable with it, then let's just pay that down, right? Like,
Not to sound morbid about this, but the older I get, the more I know that we're all going to die. So there's some part of this where
That
you
could have
get
been a quote.
you get so enthralled with all these things, trying to do everything the right way and trying to make sure you do all the things right that you just don't live life. So I like to the point of like, if you get your first job and you want to get a car because you've been driving something that may fall apart any time now and you want something reliable, well, yeah, that is okay debt to have, right? Even though you'll have people that argue that you should never have car debt, you should never do that. But there are times when it's just part of life and you're just going to have to have that, and it's okay.
Yeah.
As long as there's one thing, 10%, I was told this long ago. I know I'm rambling.
You're good.
Okay.
I have another point I want to make. Go ahead. Yeah.
I had a client one time as a school bus driver, and he dropped out of high school at 15 years old because he got his wife pregnant back in the 50s. And she worked in the school cafeteria. He was a school bus driver their whole life. They came to see me when they were like in their 60s, didn't know if they could retire, and they were able to retire fantastically, put their 3 children through college, pay for their college. It was an unbelievable story, right? And I just asked him how he did it. And he said back in the 50s, he had 2 things that were told to him by his dad when this happened. Back then, you took responsibility for your actions and so on. So they got married. They had the baby. And he put 10% to church and 10% to their savings for them. And he did that for every check he did for his whole entire life, and so does his wife. 10% to church, 10% to them, and 80% that's for life.
Live on.
Yeah.
And as they made a little bit more money, and he happened to buy a few Walmart shares when he was younger. But the point is, he was able to, a guy that did not have a high school degree, nicest people on the planet, made sure their kids did go to college. And it just goes, the point of that, there's no right or wrong answer of how you do stuff. Yeah. But if you pay yourself 10%, and if you tithe, if you're into the tithing, 10% to your church or charity, and 10% to yourself, it doesn't matter what you do with the rest of the money, in my opinion, right? Especially when you're young. Sure. You'll build yourself whatever you want by just doing that simple math.
Yeah. I wanted to make one more point about good debt before we got out of here, because one came to mind. College has gotten so expensive nowadays. You definitely have to kind of sit down and do the math on if it's worth it, right? Like I know several.
You mean if
people
it's worth
who
it to go to college, or
I mean, genuinely, because there's
and
some
assume all that debt.
Well, there's some
totally
degrees out there that will never allow you to pay that off.
Correct.
Totally agree.
So
Totally agree.
It's definitely, you used to just go to college, get whatever degree you want, you'll end up.
Right.
Like I know nurses, they went to school for 6-7 years, got their nursing degree, whatever, and they teach now. Like,
I know, yeah.
you know, and so it's really this formula of like, okay, am I going to make enough money to pay this off, or am I better off, you know, getting a 2-year degree, going get a certificate, things like that. That's kind of another argument for
It's like
good debt, bad debt.
broad conversation just
Yeah.
in society.
Yeah,
which
that may be a whole
Needs to
nother
be had.
episode,
Yeah, it
but
could be,
don't go to college because you're supposed to go to college.
The
Right?
pressures of young people today, not only to go to college, but to go somewhere where their friends are going, or go somewhere that is cool, or their parents have pressure to get them somewhere cool. I would tell you, some of the smartest people I know, which is not me, by the way, because my kids didn't do this, because I'm not that smart. Community college, right? Get your first 2 years. You can do education cheaper and still come out with the same exact result.
Yeah.
And we tend, as Americans, to always do more than we need to get whatever we're trying to get.
Yeah.
You know, and and the education debt drives me insane. I think it's a crime, but anyway.
Yeah, agreed. Well,
I feel like we covered a lot.
that was a lot. You know, I wrap it up. Be smart with your debt. Make sure your money's working for you and not for somebody else. And John's gonna take over the quote for today.
All right, quote for the day. All right, if at first you don't succeed, don't try skydiving. That's it.
That's so good. That's so good.
Thanks everybody for joining us.